President Duterte and his relationship with women, whether ally or critic, his actions and remarks about females, controversial and drawing criticism. This is On the Record. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Our guests for this episode, John Andrew Evangelista, sociologist in the University of the Philippines in Diliman, specializing on gender.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And Jean Enriquez, a co-initiator of #Babae Ako. She's also Executive Director, Coalition Against Trafficking in Women, Asia Pacific, and Secretary Sal Panelo, Chief Presidential Legal Counsel, who will be defending the President tonight. Thank you very much for joining us all this evening. But, well, speaking of this evening, just this evening, in a speech in Lapu-Lapu City in Cebu Province, the President made these remarks. I'd like our guests to react to the sound bites in just a bit.
In the many campaigns, na uso yung ball, maybe you have kissed 1,000 ladies on the lips. Yun ang style ko sa politika.
And before a reaction to that, Malacanang, no, or let's get a reaction muna to that. No? So the President, and let's begin with Sal Panelo here, who is the President's Chief Legal Counsel. The President talking about how he likes to kiss people, women. It is common practice for him.
Of course, hindi naman niya sinabing he likes kissing women.
He just
Sinabi
does
niya lang na during the campaign,
niya.
I think, kiss.
Okay.
Yun ang style niya. You know, his way of showing his endearment to them and tenderness, reciprocating. Kasi like now, he's the President, he's father of the nation. He should show how he cares. Yung mga, there are adoring fans eh. Whether you like it or not, talagang madami siyang adoring fans. His mob. Wherever he goes.
Okay. And whatever he
kiss her talaga eh.
Oo. And whatever he does, parang okay lang sa kanila.
Kasi nga, the guy is loving, mabait na tao, malambot ang puso.
Yun ang style niya ever since na mayor siya, no?
Ever since I knew him 30 years ago, ganyan siya, 30 plus years ago.
Okay, Jean Enriquez, comments, initial comments.
Yeah.
I know we will have a long night tonight, so.
Well, first, there's a growing body of research that shows that sexist humor is not really benign. It's really coming from a consciousness, and it also has disparaging effects on the
When you say
target
sexist humor, we're talking about the way he explains himself, why he likes.
Exactly.
Well, no, okay, not likes, why he kisses women.
Right, and
people.
makes light of those of that kind of behavior that we saw during the campaign period. I don't think it's about caring when you're telling that women rebels should be shot in the vagina. It's hatred of women.
Okay,
Andoy? Teka muna, may background nun. When he said that, he was explaining. Kasi yung mga NPA rebel women nandun. Tapos kinukumusta niya, sinabi nung NPA woman na doon siya nag-asawa sa kampo. Pagkatapos nasaan ang anak mo nandyan. Kaya siya nagalit. Sabi niya, my God, sabi niya, basta kayo nag-anak ng ganito, tapos eto yung anak nyo. Eh, papabaril ko yung mga ano niya. Iyon ang reason kung bakit siya nagkaroon. Galit na galit siya. Why these women are having this kind of children dun sa bundok. Tapos papabayaan na lang nila. Kaya galit na galit siya.
Yeah.
Yun ang reason.
Okay. Andoy, your reaction first to what the President said tonight?
The way
Umpisa pa lang to, ha? So save your bala for later. Okay. Marami pa to. Oh.
And I agree that sexist humor or sexist practices taken to be humorous are not necessarily benign. Kasi importante nating pag-isipan, hindi lang yung intention or from what consciousness it's coming from, but the implication and how it perpetuates a certain kind of consciousness. Kailangan conscious tayo dun sa implikasyon ng mga action, especially when we are in public office. Because to some extent, when we are in public office, we are workers of the state, and everything we do has an implication and to some extent being legitimized in the eyes of the public because
Yeah.
it has the state's stamp on it.
Okay, so everything you do, like kissing or say, and say like those very controversial statements that we've never heard any other president say before. But anyway, Malacanang has described this kiss. Well, the kiss we're talking about, of course, the kiss in Seoul, in South Korea, describing that kiss as a light moment. Speaking to CNN Philippines on June 4, presidential spokesman Harry Roque said the playful act is accepted in Filipino culture.
Obviously, there is no offended party here. The lady who was kissed has clearly expressed the view that she was honored with a kiss. And of course, we have our traditional critics, and it's the same critics who are going to town against what happened. But I believe that an overwhelming majority of the Filipinos continue to support the president and found the kiss a light moment, no, that is very accepted in the culture of Filipinos.
Now, the next day, while still in South Korea, Harry Roque changes his tune and said the kiss was not an acceptable norm.
The president, of course, has had a policy of doing what he does because he does things the way he does things. If some people are offended, so be it. But in this instance, we have to highlight that the woman had nothing to say but positive things. It's not an acceptable norm, but what I'm saying is the only person who should complain is the woman. And she's not complaining.
Okay, Leia, wait. Sir, sandali. Teka muna. Let me ask the question. Grabe. Sir naman. Okay, you know, we're going to get to that in a while, but first I wanted to take up something more recent, which evolved from this whole situation. Okay, this Chris Aquino and Mocha Uson spat. Like I said, grew out of this very controversial kiss planted by President Duterte and this married woman in Seoul. No? There was a question because I asked of Harry Roque earlier today about Mocha's status, and he says she is still part of government. So I wanted to ask first Secretary Sal Panelo, would President Duterte fire her for what Bongo said she was supposed to do, which is to apologize for uploading that video of Ninoy Aquino being kissed by those two?
I think the apologies were made because...
By Bongo and the president. But Mocha said she would not apologize for the truth she
Because
said.
from their point of view, Chris was hurt by the posting. But not because Mocha was wrong. Because if you ask me, I don't see anything wrong with it. The only reason why I think, from where I sit, Chris was reacting because he thinks his father, and rightly so, is a man of paragon. And the president is a man of flawed character. Because when Mocha posted that, she was actually saying,
Magkapareho lang sila.
hindi nung magkapareho, kundi yung picture ni Presidente, mahalik ng girl, o inahalikan siya. Dahil consensual naman, dalawa sila naghalikan, pero isbak lang actually. Si Ninoy naman, nahalikan. In other words, these are adoring fans. Kaya ordinary yun, saka papakita lang ng pagmamahal. Kaya walang mali siya si Mocha.
So the video,
But,
pareho lang? Pareho
sa
lang?
punto naman ni Chris, sabi niya, ang tatay ko, kumaga matino ito eh. Siguro sa tingin niya, hindi matino itong isa dahil para sa kanya kasi mali yung ginawa ni Presidente. Because ang paniniwala niya mali, ang tingin niya, yung comparison mali kasi okay itong tatay ko, bakit mo ikukumpara din
So wait,
sa hindi?
I just wanted to get something out of the way. So it sounded kasi like it was an order from the president.
No, sa tingin ko, nag-apologize because the girl was hurt, obviously. Hindi ba sa TV, kita mo naman na nasaktan.
Okay.
Hindi ba tayo kahit na hindi naman mali yung ginawa mo, pero nakasakit ka ng tao, I'm sorry na nasaktan kita. Pero hindi yun ang aking intention. Ganun yun.
Okay. Well, let's tackle that video, no? So, pareho ba is what happened? Because that's what Mocha Uson did, no? She was trying to compare President Duterte kissing that woman in Seoul, South Korea, with Ninoy Aquino being kissed by two women moments a few hours before he was assassinated in August 1983. Is it the same?
Yes, sa akin. You know why? Kasi these are adoring fans of Ninoy. Itong isa naman adoring fan ni Presidente. Yun lang naman ang point ni Mocha, walang iba eh. Nothing to do with the assassination.
Okay.
Pero sa punto nga ni Chris, sa tingin ko hindi niya gusto yung ginawa ni Presidente. Mali sa kanya yun Sa kanya siguro malaswa yun. Pero huwag mo ikukumpara ng tatay ko. Yun ang kaya siya nasasaktan.
Yeah, okay. Gina Landoy, can you address that, no? Sa punto kasi ni Chris, for them, it's malaswa, for others, it's not.
I'm not coming from the place of malaswa or hindi. Okay. I'm coming from an analysis of maybe they are the same, but not in the same way that Secretary Panelo thinks of it. In the ordinary sense, we think of politicians as celebrities in the Philippines. That's why we kiss them when we want to thank them and whatever. And I think that kind of culture is very dangerous because politicians are there to fulfill certain responsibilities. And when they do fulfill that, we don't have to be thankful. That's their job. So we cannot treat them as celebrities. So I think it may be ordinary, it may be familiar, but it's not exactly the same culture that we have to try to engage, because to me there's a danger there. When we begin to treat politicians as celebrities, that we can kiss them or in order to show certain adoration. We don't have to adore them because they are doing what they are supposed to do according to the law if they fulfill certain responsibilities. Now when they fail, that's when we have to call them out and criticize them. So to me, they are the same because it's part of the same culture. It's a part of the same pattern of structures of how we conduct politics in the Philippines for the longest time, and we have to engage that kind of culture.
Jean.
Having said that politicians shouldn't take advantage of the fact that they might have a fandom, it's important to look at the particular way by which those things transpired. Clearly, after magmano nung babae sa presidente, tinawag pa niya ulit. No? In the midst of cheering fans, urging them to do the kiss, etc. And then malinaw din na hiningi, no? Sabi ng presidente, may asawa ka ba? Pwede ba? Ilang beses. Tapos ilang beses nagtakip ng mukha niya yung babae. Whereas in the case of Ninoy, he was surprised that these two women came to him and suddenly kissed him. He didn't ask for it. He didn't solicit it actively. Very much unlike what happened in Korea.
Okay, so
ibang-iba.
Ibang-iba. Yes, Secretary Panelo.
One, hindi rin totoo na politicians are looked upon as celebrities. Iba itong si Presidente. Not all politicians are mob. Ito lang ang nakita kong politikong minamab, saka si Magsaysay. Wala na akong ibang nakita. So, kakaiba siya kasi may charm Saka, what you see, you get. Transparent siya And people relate to him. Now, pagdating naman dun sa kissing, if you notice, yung sinasabi nagtakip, hindi naman nagtatakip, parang nahihiya siyang excited siya. Hindi naman yung takip siya para ayaw alaga. The fact remains is when she was interviewed at nag-post pa, sabi niya, that kiss made my day. In other words, talagang gusto niya. Enjoy nga siya, happy siya na hinalikan siya. Na humalik din siya.
There were some questions also about that interview because it was done by, was it PNA or the PCOO? But it was a government. Well, we'll continue this discussion after a break. Sir, sandali lang.
Don't forget the posting siya mismo.
Sir, sandali lang. Hold the thought. We'll continue after this discussion after a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. This is On the Record. We're talking about President Duterte and how he deals with women, whether ally or critic, specifically that kissing incident in Seoul in South Korea earlier this week. Still with us, John Andrew Evangelista, sociologist, UP Diliman, John Enriquez, co-initiator of #BabaeAko, and Sal Panelo, who is the President's Chief Legal Counsel. So right before the break, we were talking about the ayun na, nakalimutan ko na.
We can talk about that.
No, before the break.
Consent.
Hindi. Ang sinasabi ko, we should look at the incident on the part of the girl. Walang malis kasi siya mismo nagsasabi na it made her day. Nag-post pa siya. Na talagang happy siya for that.
But she was interviewed by, and can the producers please help me out on this? It was an interview, was it by PNA? Or PNA, the Philippine News Agency. It was an interview by them. As a matter of fact, maybe we can. Oh yeah, it's this one. Can we roll this so that so that let's not misquote or anything.
Para si Bea Kim, 7 years na akong nakatira dito. Meron akong asawang Koreano and 2 kids, 2 daughters. Hindi, nasa may unahan siya tapos nandito ako sa gitna. So pumunta lang ako doon nung sinabi kasi ni President na yung naka-white. Tapos, lumingon muna ako doon sa mga nasa tabi ko, likod ko kung merong ibang naka-white. So, wala naman. Kaya, ayun na, tumayo na talaga ako. Parang nabiyak ako. Hindi ko ma-explain yung parang kinakabahan ako, natatakot ako, excited, thankful. Happy ako kasi parang it's a once in a lifetime experience kasi yun, di ba? Kahit nasa Pilipinas ka, parang suntok sa buwan na makita mo nang malapitan talaga yung president. Totoo yun, totoo yun.
Kayo magpapatunay na walang mali siya yun?
Wala.
Unahan na natin.
Oo, wala. Walang mali siya yun. Si president nagsabi na, tinanong niya ako kung single ka ba o married. Sinabi ko, married po ako sa Koreano. Meron po akong 2 anak. Tapos, yun, parang ginawa lang namin ng yung kiss, parang twist lang yung pampakilig sa mga audience. Walang ibig sabihin yun. Promise, walang ibig sabihin.
So there was a question from the PNA person. Kayong magpapatunay na walang mali siya?
Ano?
Kayong magpapatunay na walang mali
Siya nga, yun nga sinasabi, happy siya. Na wala namang.
Jean?
Yeah, even consuls, no, even ambassadors, Filipino ambassadors abroad are being expected to conduct themselves in the highest ethics. So hindi mo ma-expect kapag ginawa yan ng isang ambassador sa isang Filipina overseas. I'm sure it's going to be a huge controversy. Pwede ipatawag pa yan, i-call ng South Korean government why that was done, no, in their territory, etc. Kasi meron tayong regard for women na hindi accessible agad-agad yung katawan nila. And clearly, regardless whether the woman express herself like she's consenting or not, mayroong difference yung kanilang katayuan.
What do you mean by that?
Presidente ang tumawag, tinawag siya, tinuro siya, sinabi niya mismo. And then, naglinger for a long time. Nagpasalamat na siya, pero tinawag pa rin siya. So she was like clearly pinpointed by the president. Fan siya, tapos ito ay presidente na may pinakamataasang posisyon sa ating lipunan and therefore alam niya na meron siyang control doon sa sitwasyon na yon. Itong babaeng ito ay humahanga, hindi niya alam how to conduct herself and she's being asked to kiss. So how else would she react to
Although
that?
like the Secretary Sa was saying, siya naman mismo nagsasabi, walang mali siya, okay lang, gimmick lang, you know.
Tsaka isa pa, kasi nandun ako sa Korea. 2,000 people were there, mostly women. Nung sinabi niya na may 2 siyang libro at bibigyan niya ito kung sino may gusto, nagtaasan lahat. So lahat sila gustong umakyat. At tinuro niya 3 kasi nandun ako sa tabi, 3, puro nakaputi nga 3 ang pumunta pero 2 lang nakakit sa stage kasi in-stop na ng protocol. Madalit sabi, talagang all of them really want to go on stage and be with the president. Happy sila
Yeah.
Kahit yung mga musicians sa stage, no, marami silang fans. Are we expecting them to just kiss their fans one by one on the lips? This is really taking advantage of their power, of the awe that fans accrue to them. And that should not be the case.
There was also some criticism of well, her name is Bea Kim, no, na pumayag naman siya, siya naman ang umoo, etc.
Tsaka sinasabi niya nga happy siya. After the interview, nag-post pa siya. The kissing made my day.
We don't want to blame
In other words,
anyone in the first place.
nagre-react tayo, we're being more popist than the Pope. Kumbaga, the Pope is not complaining. Si
Like Harry nga himself was saying na kung may pwedeng magreklamo dito, dapat yung babae.
But this was
Yeah.
done in public, in an official visit of the president. I think every citizen has the right to tell the state what it feels or what they feel about what happened there, because it's a public space. The Filipino people funded that kind of event. So I have the right to say this is what I think of it. So what I think of it actually is that I'm not concerned about consent, because consent is created in a social condition. And I agree that to some extent, merong imbalance doon. Presidente, lalaki, babae, fan.
Yeah.
So,
and then you have that crowd, huh?
yeah, and
That
then the crowd was cheering,
yeah.
and then, adding, I would not call it, for lack of a better term, pressure to it. So that kind of imbalance is already there. But more importantly, the implication of that action, especially the language that came after it, with Secretary Harry Roque saying that it's accepted in Filipino culture. Of course, binawi niya, pero lumabas yun. Ang nagiging implikasyon nun, anong gagawin sa mga babae na nasa ibang bansa? Anong iisipin ng ibang lahi na, ay, accepted pala ito sa Filipino culture? So, it's about responsible speech also eh. It's about, because, and a lot of people would say, joke lang naman yun, it's language, it's just a narration.
Or that you're making a
big deal out of it.
Big deal out of this.
From
you're
the
making a
beginning
mountain out of a molehill.
From the beginning of the campaign, yun na yung laging sinasabi, it's just a story and whatever. To me, language is very dangerous because tayo bilang tao, sa lingwahe lang naman tayo nag-iisip. At kung ano yung naririnig nating lingwahe paulit-ulit, yun yung matatatak sa isip natin. At yun yung bumubuo ng collective na kamalayan natin na nagpapatakbo sa ating mga institusyon. So kung yung lingwahe na paulit-ulit natin ginagamit ay dangerous, there's also a danger in how we run institutions, especially institutions of gender and sexuality in the Philippines.
Be careful how you think, because that's how you are as a person.
Not just be careful of how you think, but be careful of the language
also
that you put out there, because the collective, yung individuals will begin to believe that is true. For example, for the longest time, we've associated the word mahina to babae. So for the longest time, that's how we thought of women. And that's how we run our institutions. Disqualifying women from public spaces, from productive spaces, and relegating them in domestic spheres. That to me, it results from how we talk about them and how they are embedded, how this kind of thinking resulting from the language that we use is embedded in our structures.
So we've had two female presidents, but sir, sandali lang po, we need to take a short break. This is On the Record on CNN Philippines.
Di halik tatay kasi bata pa yung babae. Oh, di halik tatay yun.
Ayos naman na kumbaga parang na ng babae na niya yung president. Kumbaga noon niya lang nakita siguro kaya very excited.
Paghahanga lang sa presidente yung ginawa niya. Kumbaga parang nakita niya yung yung Pangulo natin, natuwa siya siguro, kaya naka-kiss sa ating presidente.
Para sa akin, kahit na parang gusto ng girl, parang hindi pa rin maganda kasi bilang president, dapat respect pa rin for women.
Dapat kasi as a president, you should set as a role model po sa Pilipino. So kahit na Gina po si ate, it should not be done.
Welcome back to On the Record. John Andrew Evangelista, sociologist, UP Diliman, John Enriquez, co-initiator, #babae ako, and Sal Panelo, the President's Chief Legal Counsel. Kahit na Gina G, go na go. But okay, we're moving into the final segment of the show. But before,
yes. Kasi sinabi kanina na we have the right, sabi mo, kasi we're funding him. Kaya the citizens have the right to speak about the incident. Exactly, the citizens of that place at that time, 2,000 people spoke in approval. The girl herself said, okay.
Does that mean then, Secretary, that I don't have the right to call them out?
Hindi, kaya I'm adapting na nga yung sinasabi mo na.
So they can speak, I can speak also.
Exactly, 2,000 people ang nagsasabing okay. Isa pa, alam mo, naalala ko sinabi ng Dr. Panelo kasi pinag-uusapan namin, my wife is a very conservative woman.
Dr.
Panelo, may wife. Sabi ko, Mami, ano tingin mo? Tingin ko, di halik apo.
Halik apo kanina.
Yeah, halik apo. Sabi niya, parang smack lang nga. Sabi niya, it's just a smack. Sabi niya, hindi ko nga maintindihan, ba't ka nagkakagulo?
O, ba't tayo daw nagkakagulo?
Kasi it's been
Bakit?
successive,
Pilipinas.
no?
Ito, napaka-conservative na itong asawa kong to, ha?
Okay, kami po hindi kami conservative. No? We respect women's sexuality, and part of respecting women's sexuality is knowing what they really want. No? And it's not necessarily because they didn't say no. They're part of a crowd that's really cheering on her to do this, what's expected of her and what's demanded of her by the president. So, having said that, this has been happening successively. No? Since the campaign period, there was a rape remark, and there was encouragement of rape again in the context of martial law in Mindanao, and then even the context that was mentioned by Secretary Panelo earlier.
And then he won the election, huh?
Yeah, and that's why our also complaint with the CHR could not really push through because of the impunity, immunity that he has from charges.
I forgot nga pala, pinakita kanina sa TV, di ba? Pati yung pag-aalik niya, ilang beses ko na nakita eh. During the campaign. But then sabi, we know this man, he has been doing that. Maraming humalik sa kanya, humalik din siya. Kung mga, alam na natin eh, pati lahat ng mga nakakapanood sa kanya, kilala na siya. Kaya hindi ka na magugulat. It would be different kung, eto isang conservative na tao, naging presidente, tapos gagawin yun. Yun, magre-react ka talaga. Bakit ganyan yan? Diba? Ito, dati nang ganyan yan.
Okay.
Tinanggap na namin siya. And factor na yun eh. When he ran for the presidency, di ba? Ako ganito, ako ganyan. Tinanggap natin siya eh.
Was that part of his, why people are attracted to him? Para bang he's such a, he'll say what's on his mind. Walang kakontrol. Kung ano yung gusto niyang sabihin, sasabihin niya. Isn't that what
yan ang attraction ni Presidente. Very transparent, honest siyang tao. Hindi siya fake. Yung, hindi siya sham. Hindi siya false. Hindi kagaya ng pagka-purita ng marami, sham.
Ano siya? Gina G din.
Gina G siya.
But, in sociology, we call identities performance.
Identities what?
Identities are performances.
Okay.
Meaning, we are all performing. We're different from in the backstage. When we're alone, we're different. So, to me, and I've been hearing this from many supporters of the president, even the President Duterte would always say, that's me, that's who I am, that's my identity. But identities are never full. They're always in the constant making and project. So my plea is that for the president to listen to these criticisms and try to figure out a way how he will listen and try to develop a self that will probably more helpful to the Filipino people, especially to women.
Okay, we have 20 seconds left, and I just wanted to ask Jean about that. Ano yung march
Babae
nyo?
ako sa
On June 12? Freedom March? Freedom from what?
Well, freedom from sexism, from misogyny, and other forms of oppression that women are currently suffering from. So June 12, 3 o'clock, we'll start from Luneta and march towards Liwasang Bonifacio. So we're inviting women who have had enough to come with us and express their
May permit na kayo, no?
It's a constitutional right. So we're going to
wala
march
kayong
regardless.
permit. Okay, wait. No, wait. There's no freedom here tonight. We are overtime. I'm sorry. But sir, sandali lang, ha? Wala na.
Kasi, ito yung hindi anti-women, you know why? Ito lang ang tao in the entire Philippines na nag-sacrifice ng buhay niya for the release of a woman hostage.
Okay.
Walang gumawa nun.
Yeah, it is 7:30.
Nobody did that.
And I'm declaring martial law here. We stop right now. Sal Panelo, Presidential Legal Counsel, John Enriquez, #babae ako, and Andoy Evangelista, sociologist, UP Diliman. Thank you very much for being with us tonight, and thank you for watching On the Record this week. I'm Pia Ontiveros.
Thanks.